All right, y'all, Doc here. I'm going to make this a quick intro. If you've been watching this channel, you know I've been suffering from recurring death wobble in my Jeep. I thought by changing out the bushings, making them urethane bushings in my last death wobble video, that it would take care of the problem. It didn't. I was driving down to the coast this weekend or a couple of weeks ago, and I hit a bump in the road, 60 miles an hour, and I got the most violent death wobble I had ever experienced. So I realized, okay, something's wrong with my front end, and I had to rebuild it completely. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into part one, which is basically disassembling everything in the front end. This took me hours, so I can't, I couldn't put everything in one video. This is going to be in 3 parts. Disassembly is in part 1, and then rebuilding the front end is going to be in parts 2 and 3. All right, so if you've been keeping up with my Instagram channel and previous videos, I've been talking about a lot about how I have recurring death wobble in my 2000 Jeep XJ 4-wheel drive with the 4.0 inline 6. Now, I love this Jeep and I hate it at the same time. And so what I've been doing is basically the bushings have been wearing out in my adjustable track bar. It's a solid adjustable track bar. I like it a lot. It's rough country, but I don't hold that against it. The main weakness in it were the original bushings that came with it, so I replaced those with urethane ones. But they kept failing every few months, and I kept having to replace them, which tells me the problem isn't just the track bar. I've got other things going on. Now, this whole suspension was new as of less than a year ago, and I got to admit it's rough country also, and I'm starting to think that's a big problem. So if I move the camera over here, so these bushings here in the lower control arms, those lower control arms are rough country. The upper control arms are cheap, I think, Crown control arms. And, the list goes on. Basically, when I started rebuilding this, I didn't know anything about Jeeps, and I went on the cheap, and now I'm paying for it. So I saved up my money and finally got some really good suspension components. And so what I'm going to start with today is a full suspension rebuild. Yep, that's right. It's going to be a nightmare. And so what we're going to start with is basically taking the wheels off and putting in new bearings, new U-joints for the front axles, and I can't remember what else. I think I'm replacing something else on new ball joints, just in case. Some of the death wobbles that I had were violent enough that they were definitely, they could have damaged my steering, and so that's something you got to be worried about if you ever have death wobble. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we start taking things apart, there's 2 things that I've got to do. The first is I've got to measure the distance from where the steering, where the tie rod ends connect to each ball joints. I'm going to measure that distance so that I can, when I put my new steering on, that's right, I've also got to put new steering on. And you might wonder why I'm putting new steering on, and that's because really, in independent suspension vehicles, you have several things attaching to your steering knuckle to help it, keep from wobbling around uncontrollably. In these Jeeps, there's only one thing, and that's your steering tie rod ends. And so I want to make sure if those were at all damaged, I'm going to want to replace them. And as I take things out and take them apart, I'm going to inspect them. But the point is, before I put my new steering in, I want to make it as close as possible to the length of the existing steering, and that'll make my job easier to get it at least semi-aligned before I take it to have professionally aligned, if that makes sense. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break the lug nuts on the tires so that once I start jacking this thing up, I don't have any resistance and I can finish the job of removing the lug nuts. Much easier to break them free when the car is sitting on the ground. So let's get started. I'm just going to go ahead and measure. 52.5. Man, did that take forever. So I'm over looking at my sockets now, and for the life of me, I cannot remember. It's been so long since I've taken this, taken the wheels off this thing that I cannot remember the size of the lug nuts. And if you saw the mess my garage is in, trying to find anything in here is a chore and a challenge. We'll try 21, and I'll bring a 19 too. You know, one of the things that I'll be putting on in a second is eyeglasses. You always want to wear the proper protection, and gloves if you got them. Right now I'm running low on cash, and vinyl or rubber gloves are expensive, so don't do what I'm doing. Wear the proper PPE. There we go, it's 19. And you don't have to remove the lug nuts here. Like I said, we're just breaking them free. Hopefully the wheel hasn't rusted to the actual hub. That would be a pain in the butt. When I got this Jeep, that's what happened, and it took me forever with a torch to get those off. And when it did finally pop free, did I get them all? No. When it did finally pop free, oh, I forgot this has a key. Darn it. The keys in the glove box. Hold on. When the thing did finally pop free, it was such a loud explosion. It sounded like a gun going off. Scared the living daylights out of me. So really hope I don't have to do that again. There we go. All right. Then I just do it on the other side. Okay, so we have the lug nuts loosened, and we have, let's get a little more light in here, and we have the measure. We've measured the tie rod ends from steering knuckle to steering knuckle. Now what we're going to do is jack her up, and for this, don't forget, safety first. You definitely want to have jack stands. So after you jack it up, we're going to put jack stands under. And listen, I'm going to go ahead and jack it up from the axle and put the jack stands under the axle, at least for this part of the job. I've got brand new Core 4x4 Tier 3 control arms, super expensive, super nice. I think I'm going to try and do that with the vehicle on the ground. I've watched some YouTube videos for regular Jeeps, and they do them from the ground. So I'm not going to jack it up for that. We'll see how that goes. But for now, we're jacking it up from the axle, putting axle stands under the axle. If you have to do anything where the suspension needs to hang down, you need big, tall jack stands, unless you've got a big hydraulic lift in your garage. So these 12-ton jack stands, definitely big. Hopefully I left myself enough room. That should be fine there. And then I'll just put it on the other side. those things are heavy. Nope, I gotta go up further. That's the one problem with these jack stands. They are really tall. All right, there we go. And I'm gonna let it down very gently. I do not want to break or damage my axle. So far, so good. Now what you're going to do is, if I did this right, I can just finish the lug nuts by finger. They should be loose enough where I can just do it by hand. All right, so I figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to concentrate just on one side. I'm going to do this side, the driver's side, and show you, you know, how to rebuild the driver's side, starting with the hub, the U-joint, and the ball joints. And then I'm going to do the other side without recording so I can do that side quickly. And then once that's done, I'll show you the control arms, and hopefully that'll be the entirety of the job. I'm also going to be doing a couple of other things, but I'll show you when I get there. But in any case, one thing that I said earlier, which turns out I would do it differently now, I've got the other wheel off, the passenger side. And actually what I would do is go ahead and measure from steering knuckle to steering knuckle with the wheels off, because that would actually be a lot easier. But I just wanted to do it with the weight of the car on the wheels, just in case that made a difference. So I don't know, maybe the way I did it is better. Let me know what you think in the comments. But for now, all I'm going to do is loosen those lug nuts and then get the wheel off. And literally all I'm doing is, man, I gotta get a bigger set of coveralls. All I'm doing is, I'm just taking the socket with my hand and just doing that. The last one's gonna be kind of tough, but these ones should be easy. Trying a different recording method too, where I'm actually using my iPhone to record audio and my GoPro to record the video, because it was really hard doing this with one hand with my iPhone, and probably people were kind of getting frustrated with my YouTube videos because of that. So apologize for the angle looking up my nose. I'm sure nobody wants to see that, but you know, it's just how it is, dude. Come on. There we go. Like these bolts too. I think I got them at like Morris 4x4 or Summit Racing, one of the others. Just their black bolts. They're really nice. It's really nice. I got it at Target. All right, so wheels off. Let's get to the next step. All right, so I moved the camera too soon, because I think what I'm going to do next is go ahead and start pulling the brake caliper off of this side. Got to remove that so that you can remove the rotors, and then remove the hub itself and all that kind of crap. So may as well do the brake caliper next. Let me see if I can find a place where I can stick this phone and it's not too awkward. So funny thing, I'm so used to working on Hondas that I'm used to the two-piece brake caliper system. And this Jeep actually is just a one-piece caliper. I'd forgotten. It's been a while since I put this thing together, but basically it's just this. This just pulls off. And you've got two bolts here. They're actually 13 millimeter in my case. This is a 2000. I don't know if it's different sizes for earlier years, earlier generations. But anyway, I've got a 13 mil cheater bar hooked up to that. There, it's loose. I'll just loosen up the bottom one. So get those out and set them aside, put them someplace where they won't get lost. Now, the one thing that you definitely want to be careful of is with this caliper, I don't want to let it, even though these are braided steel cables or brake lines, I'm going to put it up there on the control arm. I don't want to let that hang from the brake line. And I also want to make sure it doesn't get twisted when I put it back in. So I'm just going to put it up there on the control arm for now. I may bungee cord it later. But that's it. Getting that off is really, really simple. And then I think the rotor just slides right off. Yeah. Rotor comes right off. I'm just going to put that right there. So, see what I mean? This is what holds the brake caliper in, these two pieces on the steering knuckle. And next what I'm going to do, I think, is just start to maybe consider removing the axle nut first. I'm wondering, I'm sitting here thinking maybe I made a mistake in not doing the axle nut while the car was on the ground, but honestly, popping off those center caps, there wasn't one on the driver's side, but on the passenger side I've got a Jeep center cap, and those, they don't make them anymore. They're hard to get. I like them. So I didn't want to do that. But anyway, so I think I will. I think I'll go for the axle nut now and see how that goes. With the axle nut, try and hold that steady. You've got a cotter pin there. I'm going to straighten out the ends and pull the cotter pin out. Then you've got this retaining thing here. It's not a castle nut, but it's got like castle nut-like features, those edges, those up and down edges that keep the, that like connects to the cotter pin. And that's what keeps your axle nut from spinning off. But anyway, so I'm going to pull out the cotter pin, take off that retaining cap, and then I might use my electric impact gun to go after the actual axle nut itself. Man, I hate these things. Just bend, would ya? There we go. All right. Throw that away. Don't want to reuse those ever. I mean, I'm going to reuse this, even though I might not be, that might not be advisable. I'm going to reuse my axle nut. I don't feel like getting a new one, so sue me. Anyway, now I'm just going to find the actual socket that's big enough for that big boy. 36. It's a 36 millimeter nut. And I am going to use my electric impact gun. You can do this by hand. It's a little more pain in the ass than it's worth it to do it by hand. Especially if you've got, you know, with Hondas, forget it. You know, they tell you to use a big cheater bar, you know, put a screwdriver in to keep it from turning on you, and all this kind of stuff. Why? I've got an impact gun. I'm going to use it. And if you're serious about doing car work yourself, I highly recommend you get either air tools or an electric impact gun of some kind. Because it makes work like that, just that easy. So I don't know what I'm going to do next. I should probably read up, you know, and maybe see what other people recommend. But I think probably what I'm going to do next is disconnect the steering tie rod end. And then probably the hub, which I think is the right order to do it, but we will see. In other videos on my channel, I've used a tool that I'm going to show you in a second here. So if you watch my other videos, you know about this tool. I use it on my Honda a lot, but I also use it. It's anywhere that you've got a tie rod end, essentially, or a castle nut plus a ball joint kind of set up like this. So I'll show you in a second. But it makes the removal really, really easy. me see. I think these are 15s. Am I right? No, way off. Not that either. Is it a 19? No, it's an 18. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's an 18. I think I've taken this off. I've had to put steering on here so many times that I think the nut should come off. Okay. Definitely torqued, but not, you know, the torque specs aren't that crazy on these. I like to keep these just in case. That castle nut has not been in business for too long, so I'm going to hang on to it. Am I going to get lucky? And is that going to come out? Of course not. Of course not. It's a Jeep. So let's get the tool. So this is a really great tool, and highly recommend getting it. First time I ever learned about it was with Hondas, because I haven't seen this in the Jeep manual, but it's all over the Honda manuals. This particular tie rod end remover. In this case, I don't care. I'm getting rid of this steering since I find it suspicious. But if you did care, if you didn't want to tear up your boot right here, this thing basically slide it in between your boot and your steering knuckle. This little finger goes onto the top of your ball joint bolt end there, and then you ratchet down this bolt. It tightens down that top little finger there, and eventually pops it free. But boy, does it get loud when it finally pops free. It is super loud. I'm such a coward. I often wear headphones because it's that loud. I'm gonna need to really abuse this. Hold on. Stops. I wonder. Hey, that just worked like a pickle fork. Well, I guess that's another way to do it. All right, so next thing we're going to do is remove the hub, and I'm trying to do this from a strange angle here, but on the back of the steering knuckle, they're going to be 3 bolts, and they're going to have those star head patterns. Trying to see where they are, I think. I'm doing this by feel. Now let me get my head in there. All right, so I don't know if you can see that. That's one right there. My index finger is pointing at it right there. I'm going to pull my hand out, try and get the shadows out of the way so you can get a good look at that. This is another one of these Jeep Chrysler things where you have to have a special socket head to fit around that, and I think it's a 12 point, and I can't remember the millimeters, but we're about to find out. You got 3 of those you've got to undo, and they can be a bear to get undone. Now, what I've got going for me is the fact that I did this job less than a year ago, so probably it's not too rusted in there, but you know what? My luck's never good with this Jeep, so probably I'm going to run into some other problem. Let's find out. 13, yeah, and that worked. That's all you need is a 13. One is broken free. 2 are broken free. Three are broken free. And there we go. Now I've got an electric a smaller electric impact driver I could use, but for people who don't have those kinds of tools and just want to see if you can do this with your own, you know, ratchet sets or whatever you got in your garage, absolutely. You could, in fact, get that axle nut off if you wanted to. Now, I'll tell you something else. At this point, after I remove these bolts, maybe a good ½ inch, one trick, if your hub is really frozen on there, if the face of the hub is frozen to the steering knuckle, one trick I learned is that after you get all 3 of these bolts out about ½ an inch, get yourself a hammer, 4-pound sledge or whatever. Just start tapping the bolts, and until the tapping action breaks free that rust, and the hub will break free from the face of your steering knuckle. I don't think I'm going to have this problem. Let me just test and see. No, I'm not going to have that problem, but if you did, that's what you'd do. Oh, I forgot. You know what? Damn. Inside your axle nut, washer, don't lose that. Need that washer. All right, let me just get all of them out on one side. There's one. As you go, I often, if this is your first time doing it, take pictures or record yourself or stuff like that. That always helps. If you're new to this, do something like that. And okay, so we got the 3 bolts off. They're right here on the ground, and now we're going to go ahead and pull the hub, and you can see the axle's going to want to come with it. Let me get the phone someplace where I can or the GoPro where you can see this. So we just kind of, oh, it comes right out, and you'll notice the dust cover, the dust shield comes off right like this. Don't forget that you have to put the dust shield on before or just before you attach the hub, and that the place where there's no kind of dust shield, that's going to line up like that where your brake is, I think. But I'll have to look at the other side, but I'll double check on that for you. That's it. Your hub's out. Your axle comes out just as easily, but be careful. You know, you don't want to damage your seal at the far end inside your differential housing. And there's your axle. You know, it's a good thing. I thought it just occurred to me, oh my gosh, was I supposed to drain the differential fluid and everything so it doesn't come out the axle? No, you don't have to, because there's a seal down at that far end, and I'm going to double check here, make sure that diff fluid isn't coming out right there. No, that all looks good. There's no diff fluid coming down the tube at me now that I've pulled the axle out. Although I'll double check on that too. It may be that you're supposed to drain the diff fluid first. But anyway, next we take care of this U-joint. Start pressing that out and putting the new one in. So I'm sitting here looking at this job, and I'm wondering, what do I do first? Do I do the U-joints here, or do I do the ball joints, holding the steering knuckle to the axle? Which do I do first? Both require that tool there, that big old C-clamp looking thing. I think I'm going to do the U-joints first and then move on and do the ball joints. Definitely think about investing in one of these for yourself. You can always rent them at like AutoZone or auto parts stores, but definitely want to think about getting one of those yourself, because it really helps. I'm going to try and do it here. Ideally, this would be down on your workbench in a vise, but I don't feel like picking up and moving everything to my workbench, so I'm going to try and do it here. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. But basically, what you want to do is you're gonna set up your C-clamp and you're going to push against one end first, starting here. Push that out through there until it clears, pull the cap off, and then you push the other end back through, pull that cap off, and then this comes free. The axle end right here comes free, and then you do the same thing on the inner part of the axle. So let's go ahead and get that set up. Last thing you want to do is press against something that's not gonna budge. Then you wind up just crushing it or breaking your press or whatever. And then that's centered right there. So hopefully that's clear right there what I did. I may have to lay this down like that to get some leverage. And then of course I've got to find the right socket size, which I never get the first time around, and I always forget what socket size it is. Yo, joy. No. Too big. I bet this one will do it. All right. That's the wrong driver size. Where is my 1/2-inch driver? You should see my garage. It is a mess. All right, so I'm tightening it, so we're gonna go that way. Now, some people will just use their impact driver. You know, I tend to believe the tool manufacturer when they say do not use an impact driver, which is definitely the case here. So, but your mileage will vary. Yeah, you can definitely feel that thing going already. Hopefully this will be an easy job. Just pressing that out. You can see it now that it's going. Oh, you know what? Hell, I have C-clamp. I have, I believe there are, damn it. Hold on. Yeah, do you see that? I don't know if you can see that or not. There are C-clips in there. I forgot. So I'm going to knock this one out and get a screwdriver. Be careful. You should be wearing safety glasses. I've had one of these pop out and almost blind me. I got lucky by just a millimeter or two. It went into my eyelid instead of my eye. So definitely wear your protection, your eye protection. But there, that came out there. I'm gonna have to press that back down to get at the other one. Maybe I can just hammer it back down with a socket. All right, back to it. Having a hell of a time getting that centered. All that death wobble did anything to the needle bearings. No, they look good, at least in that one. So now we press it back through and move on to the next. This isn't tough. It's just awkward. And honestly, if I did take the time to move to my workbench and do this in the vise, it would be so much faster. So needle bearings look good in that one too. I just lost one. This thing like got stuck at an angle. But they all look good. Just giving it a close once over. Yeah, they're all fine. Those two are good. Now, let me see if I can remember what you do to get it off. Hell, I can't remember. There you go. You push one end down, and then you pull the other end off, and then you pull the end that you push down, you pull that end off. All right, same thing for the for this part of the axle, and you get the picture. I'm not going to show you the second one. Don't forget, like I did, to get rid of those little C-clips in there and wear eye protection. All right, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the cotter pins and then the castle nuts for the ball joints, and we'll start pressing those bad boys out. So where did I put my... There they are. Boy, I'll tell you, getting the second U-joint ends through, I didn't show it on camera, and I'm glad I didn't, because man, it was a nightmare. They were fine. It's just that I don't know what happened. Like may have gotten them at an angle that I shouldn't have, or something like that, and wound up breaking off the end of one of the U-joints and really knurling and scraping the inside of the axle half, which I hope is okay. I think it will be. I'm not really too worried about this stuff, but you know, I just don't want to screw up my Jeep. Oh, you know what I want to do before I unbolt these is also just give it a quick test. See if... No, I've got no play in those whatsoever, so I don't think those were going bad, but still, better safe than sorry, even though I really don't want to do this job. And of course, the cotter pinned end is over here. Because why would anything be easy with working on a Jeep? There we go. All right. Now we got to find out how big these guys are, because I don't remember. Well, they're bigger than, that one's bigger than a 21. And this one's even bigger than that. I do remember having a hard time with these. Yeah, so top one is a 22 millimeter. And I believe, if I remember correctly, when I did this the first time, the top or the bottom castle nut is really honking big. And so I wound up using a box end wrench because I didn't have a, which is something you can do. You don't have to. I'm trying to think of which way I'm supposed to turn this. Yep. There we go. So that's loose. I have sockets that are just a little too big, and I have sockets that are just a little too small. One thing I do have is a box end set of 12 points that goes pretty darn big. And maybe I have to use the biggest one of all. That's what she said. There we go. This is non-metric, 1 1/8. I don't know what that converts to in terms of metric system. You know, one of the things that I got a little ticked off about is that I always use Spicer for my U-joints and my ball joints. And the Spicer ball joint replacements that I got, usually I get a kit, but it wasn't available this time, so I had to buy them individually. They didn't come with replacement castle nuts. So even though I don't think you're supposed to do this, I don't care. I'm going to reuse these castle nuts. They look just fine to me. So they're in very good shape. I'm going to set them aside, and I'm going to use them again. Now, on to the pressing. I spoke too soon. We are going to, we have to remove this before we do any pressing. So let me get my trusty sledgehammer. Now I do get, I'm probably too careful, but I don't want to whack this steering knuckle any harder than I need to. Look pretty dang. Ooh. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. I don't know if that's going to cause a problem trying to press this out or not. I had a bad bottom ball joint there. That one was definitely gone. I am so glad I did this job. This is why you don't let it go for too long. Whew. All right, let's get it pressed out. All right, so there's our press kit, one part of it. This is just a standard thing I got off of Amazon. I'll leave the link below. That's the C-clamp I was using earlier for the U-joint. And then I had to get this adapter kit for Jeep and I think for Ford trucks. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this guy right here, use that adapter thing, and I'll show you how. That's gonna go on top, or on the top of the top ball joint. And then this guy right here, wrong one. This one right here will go, basically, it'll go like this, right there, and push the ball joint from below after we get this rubber thing off right here. So anyway, I could be wrong. We'll figure it out. Just watch as I go. There we go. That's perfect. Damn, I'm tired, y'all. 7/8 to do it. I'm using a 7/8 box end. Yeah. I swear I hope this doesn't go pop because I hate that. Yep, maybe I am a coward, I don't know. Holy cow. Y'all, this is gonna be tough. Heck, if I do this. Thing is, you can't come at it from below. This is the only way that you can do it, I believe. Yeah, I'm gonna have to use the box end. Son of a gun. There it goes. Whew. Doesn't mean it's much easier than in there. Whew. Holy cow. So, it's coming. Y'all have to bear with me. I'm not as young as I once was. Alright, that's as far as I can go with that bottom end. Let's back her off. Let's see what we're working with. Y'all, look what came with my kit. Another little adapter. I'm going to put the links to these down below for Amazon. I don't know if you can see that, but basically it just does what that other one did. Goes up like that. So we're going to use that one from here. Finish this top one out. That guy got stuck on real good. Whoop, we still need that. And these adapters are nice because you can't see it, but there's a little hole for the end of this to seat into so it doesn't slip around. And then same on this end. It's nice. They really do these things really nicely. All right, here we go. Oops. You go all the way over there. I was using the wrong end. That's what she said. There we go. She's free. Can't wait to see what the bottom one looks like. That's just ugly. I'm glad I didn't drive anymore on this car. Yeah, top one looks fantastic. No problem there. I'm going to throw it away anyway. All right, let me get set up for the second one. All right, so for this one, now these adapter sets, I know I've been saying they're awesome, but they really thought this one through. This one, we're going to use again. See how it has that notch? That goes right there. The notch goes in, facing in. It is just the right size, and the notch is there so it will stay flat up against the lower part of the axle right there. That will go on the bottom, and what will go on the top is the adapter that we just used, and which I now can't find. Here we go. This will go right like that. It's just a little bit smaller in the top of the ball joint. This lower one presses down and out. Now be careful. I know mine are Spicer. They don't come with snap rings, but if yours come with snap rings, do that before you try and press these things out. Otherwise, you're going to have a really bad day. So anyway, let's pull this rubber thing off. Yep. Plenty of grease in there, but man, that thing is gone. Yeah, that should not look like that. I'm just glad I'm alive. All right, how am I going to do this? So that sits in like that, goes up like that. I'm going to have to unscrew it. Son of a gun. All right, almost there. Now I just have to tighten that. Man, I'm all turned around. Son of a biscuit. There we go. We'll get there. You just gotta kind of, getting it all set is the hard part, especially when you do what I just did and turn it the wrong way. Come on, man. Work with me here. All right. There we go. Now these things tend to want to move in the direction you're turning, so I usually get it snugged up like that up against something, in this case the axle. Now, I believe I can use my ratchet and cheater bar this time because there's plenty of room. That'll fit there. Not plenty of room, but just enough. That will fit there. Swear to God, if this thing pops out loudly, it's going to be right by my ear. Oh, no, it's not. It's just going to come out. I think I can use the smaller socket wrench. Nope, can't. Never mind. Honestly, I think the box end is easier at this point because there we go. see. I don't know if you can hear that. There's like a little bit of up and down play. Not much, a little bit. All right, y'all. So got both ball joints out. My GoPro died. Sorry about that. Now, before I close out this first part, which I'm going to have to do because I'm exhausted, don't forget, I've already taken apart the passenger side a little bit. Now, I'm taking out the steering here. This came out no problem without having to use that tool. You're going to want to disconnect your steering dampener either here, just, unbolting it here, or unbolting it here. I'm going to assume that, you guys know how to use a socket and all that kind of stuff at this point. This is very simple. What I am going to show you, though, is I'm using that tool here. So I've already pulled the cotter pin and castle nut off the top of the ball joint that attaches to the pitman arm here. And here's my little fork tool. I've got one end on top of the ball joint stud, and the fork is underneath the pitman arm, between the pitman arm and the steering component. I'm going to turn this and tighten it. I'm going to hope to God I left this connected so it doesn't come flying into my face, which I really hope it doesn't. So I'm going to do the sacrifices I make for my subscribers, I'll tell you. Here we go. See if I can do this one-handed. Oh, I hate this noise. Look, it's going to go. Boy, I'll tell you, that scares the crap out of me every time. Anyway, that's it. Dock out. Don't forget, you're going to do the same on the passenger side. Everything I showed you on the driver's side, you do on the passenger side, and you will have yourself a disassembled front end. Dock out. Oh, hey, like, subscribe. Tell your friends about this channel. Now, dock out. Oh, you made it to the end. That's awesome. Listen, I'm Doc. I'm the one who's, the voice behind these videos. And I really appreciate you taking the time to actually watch the whole thing. That's fantastic. If you've got time, if you want to, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the bell button so you get notified of new videos when I put them up. I'm going to try and do one a week. And I'm going to do a bunch of Instagram stuff, so make sure you follow me there and on Twitter. Instagram's going to be the shorter stuff. I don't have any merchandise yet. I'm planning to as the channel grows. If I succeed, I'll get some merch. For now, if you really want to help me in another way, you like these videos enough, I'm going to put links to my books in the description of the video. I'm a science fiction author in my spare time as well, so I'm juggling a lot of balls. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you at the next one. Hey, do me a favor and turn this junk off. I don't know how to deal with tech.